Imagine pressing a button. One click and every single human being on Earth, all 8 billion of us, vanishes. No war, no disease, no warning, just gone. What happens in the next hour? The next decade? The next million years? The answer gets stranger the further you go. Within the first hour, the power grid collapses. Not because anything breaks, but because nobody's watching it. Power grid needs constant human operators balancing supply and demand in real time. Without them, the frequency mismatches cascades, and continental grids go dark within hours. We know this because it happened once by accident. In 2003, a software glitch took down power access across the entire US Northeast. It took days to fix. Without humans, it happens everywhere, simultaneously and permanently. But here's the surprise. New York City has 800 pumps running underground constantly pushing back an underground river that's always trying to flood the subway. Within 30 minutes of the pumps stopping, trains can no longer pass. Within days, the entire subway system is underwater. And that's just New York. Almost every major city sits on top of an infrastructure that only exists because someone keeps it running. The moment we're gone, it starts failing. After about a week, everyone assumes nuclear reactors would explode. They probably wouldn't. Modern reactors are designed to shut themselves down automatically when power is lost. That part is actually fine. The problem is spent fuel pools. Every nuclear reactor stores years' worth of used fuel rods submerged in giant pools of water. Those pools need constant pumping to stay cool. Without power, the water heats up, boils away, and within about 10 days the rods are exposed to open air, and they catch fire. Each pool can release the radiation equivalent of 10 to 20 reactor cores simultaneously. Now here's a number that should stop you cold. There are around 400 of these pools worldwide. That's roughly 400 simultaneously playing out across the planet in the first month. Locally, that's devastating. Regionally, that's catastrophic. But the planet has survived worse. In 1986, a nuclear disaster forced the evacuation of an entire region. Scientists expected a radioactive wasteland for centuries. Instead, within a year, wolves were back. Today, the exclusion zone has wolf populations 7 times larger than nearby nature reserves. Brown bears have returned after being absent for over a century. Lynx, moose, bison, wild horses, all thriving. The conclusion that scientists reached was genuinely shocking. Human habitation is more disruptive to wildlife than a nuclear disaster. Remove us, even from a radioactive zone, and nature moves in within months. Now scale that to the entire planet. Without hunting pressure, wild boar populations will explode. They're already in Rome, Barcelona, and Hong Kong. Without humans calling them, they spread into every former city and farmland on Earth. Forests begin reclaiming farmland almost immediately. Agricultural land, which covers about half of all habitable Earth, starts reviving to grasslands, then scrubland, then forest. Within a decade, the edges of every city are blurring into the wilderness. But here's a counterintuitive one. Rats and cockroaches, the species everyone said that would outlast humanity, would collapse. Both have evolved into almost complete dependence on human waste. No humans, no food supply. Urban cockroaches and rat populations would crash within years. The animals we always assumed to be indestructible turned out to be freeloading this whole time. Modern cities weren't built to last. They were built to be maintained. Steel corrodes, wood rots, termites destroy almost everything organic, concrete cracks under frost and root pressure, and once one crack forms, water gets in, freezes, expands, and splits it further every winter. Bridges fail first, the cables snap, and then the decks collapse. Skyscrapers actually last surprisingly long, but eventually the foundations are undermined by flooding and root systems. Meanwhile, here's something almost nobody thinks about. Chickens. Right now, there are roughly 35 billion chickens alive on Earth. That's more than 4 per human. They exist in those numbers entirely because of us. We bred them, we fed them, we protected them, and without industrial farming, billions will die in the first weeks. Some escape, some go feral, but the species that was arguably the most numerically successful bird in the history of life on Earth collapses almost overnight. By 500 years in, most cities are unrecognizable, buried under meters of soil and vegetation. What we call civilization is becoming archaeology. So what lasts after 10,000 years? Not glass, not steel, not concrete, stone. The Great Pyramid has stood for 4,500 years with almost no maintenance. Mount Rushmore is carved 60 meters deep in granite, which erodes roughly 1 inch every 10,000 years. Those faces could still be recognizable hundreds of thousands of years from now. But the most permanent thing that we leave behind? Plastic. Plastic never truly disappears. It fragments into microplastics, but those particles embed permanently into geological layers. Future geologists would always be able to identify our era in the rock record from a thin, unmistakable layer of synthetic poly running around the entire planet. We would be geologically visible for hundreds of millions of years. Oh, and our radio and TV broadcasts, which are already racing outward from Earth at the speed of light, will keep traveling through space after the sun burns out. In a very real sense, the most permanent record of humanity isn't stone or plastic. It would be the faint signal of these radio waves moving at 300,000 kilometers per second toward the edge of the universe. Scientists estimate it would take 3 to 7 million years for biodiversity to recover to pre-human baseline levels. For context, 7 million years ago, our ancestors and chimpanzees had just barely split into separate lineages. The recovery from us takes us as long as our entire evolutionary journey took to produce us in the first place. And the CO2 we've already pumped into the atmosphere, it doesn't disappear when we do. A single CO2 molecule can remain in the atmosphere for hundreds of years. The climate we changed keeps changing for millennia after we've gone. But here's the thing. After every mass extinction in Earth's history, including the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, life came back. Different, stranger, sometimes better, but it always came back. The planet doesn't need saving. It's been through worse than us. So, what's the strangest takeaway from all of this? It's not that nature is fragile, it's that we are. Almost everything we've built requires constant human attention to keep standing. Our cities, our infrastructure, our power systems, they're not legacies. They're maintenance tasks. Take away the maintenance, and within a human lifetime, most of it is gone. The planet keeps going. We just stop being part of the story.